Welcome to Cultivating Courage, a podcast exploring fear, courage, and stepping into a life filled with purpose, connection, and love.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Cultivating Courage podcast. I am your host, Matt Maxwell, here with Kristin Robinson.
Hi, guys. What's up?
Yeah. And we are awesome coaches.
Yeah, man.
That's my introduction to us.
I like it. It's true. We both have coaching practices.
Yes.
We both have coaching businesses.
If you want to know more, look it up.
Yeah.
Look it up. Today we're going to talk about a topic I am so excited about. And I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Interesting.
But
okay.
I think I do. Well, I don't know what it means to you. That's one of the things I'm interested in exploring. So we want to talk about what we'll call reframing.
Yes.
When I say that, what does it mean to you?
To me, it means taking out whatever cassette is playing in my head and putting a different one in.
Tell me more.
So reframing for me is whether I'm in a situation that I don't enjoy or I am running a loop of some negative self-talk. Reframing is looking at like, what can I find or tell myself about this to ease like my discomfort?
Can you give me like a life example?
Probably I can.
Where is there something that there is discomfort, or there's a cassette playing that for you is usually not comfortable?
I think that one place that reframing happens a lot for me is just in my relationship. My romantic relationship is like needing to have all the answers and have things defined and like know like, where are we going? When will we get there? And reframing for me in that situation is, where are we now? What's to enjoy now? Like, and does it matter where we're going? Like, and so for me, that's, I guess, a reframe that I do often is like, okay, like, do you need to know? Like,
so I've got this track of thinking that's like my automatic way of thinking about the thing.
Right. Like, I need
to
know.
I need to know.
I have to make plans.
My brain's like,
I cannot possibly go on with my life.
Yes.
If I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
To this.
Must know. Brain is insisting on this. And then the processes we'll like look at more. But then, to me, it seems like if I'm gonna have that be any different, I have to be aware that it's happening.
Right.
There's some part where I realize that's not actually me.
Right.
Insisting on knowing and figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I have the chance to actually, like, how do I want to look at it? Maybe it is like, everything's okay right now.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is, I think there's something with reframing and being aware that that maybe you need, it's an opportunity for a reframe. Two is like tied to your comfort zone. Like, I think when you're pushing up against something a lot of times, that's when a reframe may be helpful.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's things I want to try or to create, and yet something about it is outside of my comfort zone or close to it, or a relationship that maybe I really want, but it's scary.
Yeah. Or maybe I need to let,
or maybe
I need to let go
there's
of,
some way
but
I'm
that's
seeing
scary.
This. Yeah. Whatever it is in whatever direction. And the scariness of it the discomfort of it might be a signal that, like, there's a way I'm thinking about this or seeing it or framing it that if I shifted it would open up the possibility of moving forward in a way that's not scary or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, I think sometimes no matter what, it's potentially scary. But I think there's a level of peace that comes with like that switch where you're like, oh, yeah, okay. I like, it may not go the way I want it to go, or it may not go the way I think it will go, but no matter what, it'll go the way it goes, and that will be okay.
Yeah.
And like being able to reframe it in that sense versus like, well, I need to say this and I need to say it just the right way at just the right time.
Yeah.
And then he'll say this. Like predicting that's possible, right? And then the outcome will be this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm living in a world most of the time where all of those things about how it's going to go and what they're going to say and how, right? It's just real.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Well, obviously,
right? Because my brain thinks it.
Yes, and I am clairvoyant and I see what's going to happen. Like I can predict the future.
Thinks the brain.
Yeah.
And we believe it.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Right.
So we're living in this made up reality. And then the impact of that is, well, of course there's certain things we're going to do or not do, or that seem terrifying, or why would I even try? Because we already know.
Yeah.
We're living in this frame where we think we know. And of course the challenge of it is most of the time we don't realize that we don't actually know.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It just seems real.
Yes.
So when we reframe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, how do you look at, like, reframe?
I love this so much. I love this topic so much. And I just want to, like, set the context for this conversation, which is basically there's a way of looking at this that anything you want for your life to experience, the experience you want to have of life, or what you actually create, this conversation is essential to that.
Yes.
This can vastly expand what's possible for you to experience and create. So I love that we're having this conversation. Here's how I actually do an exercise with clients. But it's just a series of questions. So let's bring it into real life, for me or for you.
Either way, I'll be your guinea pig if you want me to.
Okay, so what relationships, work, money? That money's one where this reframing is often really powerful for folks.
Yeah, we can do money.
You want to do money? It's
Sure.
up to you. What is a life for you? What would actually really make a difference for you right now?
Probably work or money. Let's do money.
Money.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, and maybe we could tie that. Does that relate to your business?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Like there's personal finances and there's just all like the money stuff that's involved in a business.
Right. There's
and selling and
yes. There's I don't have a big paycheck every 2 weeks anymore.
Yeah.
Sort of thing for sure. And now I'm in charge of creating that income myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that means in one way or another, sales is like asking people for money.
Yes.
Right. That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
In exchange for, okay. So money. So we're looking at what is first getting present to, what is my current frame, right? What is my current context? And so, by the way, listeners, whether you want to play along with money or look at relationships or your career or any particular thing that you want to create or that you're experiencing.
Yeah, it could be your health, fitness, anything.
So the first place I would look is, what are the truths about that for you?
About money?
And truths I'm putting in quotes. What are the beliefs? What are the things that that's how it is? The beliefs, judgments, truths that show up for you about money.
Well, I would say one is that one truth about money for me is that I am like irresponsible with money. I'm not, but it's definitely a place that I live sometimes. Like, I don't need to buy that. I don't need to go to Starbucks. I shouldn't, that I spend my money frivolously, maybe.
I'm irresponsible. I spend money frivolously. What else?
It used to be I don't save enough. I don't know enough to make my money work for me, what money I do have. Like, I don't know enough to invest it to make sure that it's like making money on my money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. For sure.
What are beliefs? Cool. What are beliefs about money?
That you need it. More is better. That money creates freedom. That not having it makes life hard. And having it makes life more fun.
What else?
I think that's probably it.
How do you see people that have a lot of money?
It depends. I see them differently. I think I believe that people with a lot of money have a responsibility to be good stewards with that money. But I also believe that of anybody that has extra disposable income, whether it's an extra $200 or an extra 200 million.
Yes, should be responsible, which coincides perfectly with I am not responsible with it. Okay, should be. So if you have a lot of money, you should be responsible. Any other judgments?
Well, socially responsible
socially
with
responsible,
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should be giving.
You should recognize your gift. That you should recognize. You
And if you don't, what would that make you?
Greedy.
Yeah, greedy.
Yeah.
I think most of us have some context around that. Maybe not everybody.
Yeah.
But if you're poor, you're this. If you're rich, you're that.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. Whatever that is, but that's going to govern what happens. Okay, so if you have money, a lot of it, that's okay, but you should be responsible with it in terms of like giving, socially, maybe contributing, and if you're not, you're greedy.
Yeah, you're just a jerk.
Yeah, a greedy jerk. Okay, good. Anything else? Money showing up for you? What if you consider asking, if you went out to ask people for money, what would be the truth about that for you?
Why am I asking them for money?
Because you have to run a business where people pay you.
Oh, okay.
Or it could be on the street.
Well,
probably the same thing will show up.
I just didn't know, am I asking because I can't pay my rent and I'm calling my dad, or I have a potential client and I need to seal the deal.
Yeah.
Those are two different experiences for me.
And either one, what we're just trying to explore is what are the scenarios where, like you said, it's like when you push whatever's out. I don't know if either of those is outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's like when you push the edge, that's when the truths start to show up.
Oh, well, I mean, it just all goes back to the very first, I'm irresponsible. If I can't pay my bills and I have to ask for money and help to pay my bills, then I've been irresponsible.
And what does that mean? Is there anything behind that?
Just that I'm irresponsible.
What is it about? Does that make you bad? Like stupid?
I think that is, yeah, I do know what you mean. And I think the bottom level is like,
you are irresponsible.
Yeah.
That's as mean as it gets.
That's pretty mean for me.
Okay, cool.
Like
Gotcha.
that feels really, really, really,
Shitty.
really, really shitty.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Got it.
Being responsible in life and for yourself is
Like goodness, the core like
yeah,
worthiness thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, yeah, being irresponsible is pretty shitty
Gotcha.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Cool. Okay, so that's if you're dad. If I had to ask him, that would feel awful.
Yeah.
Because of that, like it would mean I'm irresponsible.
Yeah.
And I haven't. Okay. What about in a client situation?
In a client situation, I think I just feel like nervous. And it's more of, do they see value in what I'm offering?
Yeah. There's like a tie, right? We could probably explore this a lot, but usually there's like some ties of like, these things are worth this much money. These things are not worth that much money.
Right.
We could probably go on and on.
Yeah.
About
I mean,
what
I
those
think
judgments
ultimately too, it's like, do they see value in working with me?
Mm-hmm.
And that then the layer underneath that is, do they see value in me?
Yeah. Right. And so their willingness to pay money in some way relates to my own value as a coach or a human.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So we can maybe jot that down. So let me just pause there so we can like go meta on what's happening.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What is happening? What is your perception of this exploration?
I think that nothing on the list has particularly surprised me. I think in the last like year or year and a half, I've gotten a lot better about how I look at money, but it still certainly is top of mind right now because like I know how much I have in the bank. Like that's why, part of the reason I was able to leave my 9-to-5 job, like, but I also like know how far that'll go.
Yes.
And recognize that if I'm not spending frivolously and I'm being responsible with my money, it'll go even further.
Yeah.
But then I also have this dialogue that like is you have to believe in like your business and what you're doing and like align your energy with what you know to be true. And then it will come and you'll never need to worry about money.
Yeah. So there are other
like
frames that are sometimes
right. But then
play.
it's like, oh, how do I like I have to trust that. Right. And then that's like a thing too, because it's like, I can get myself there until like a friend or somebody who doesn't like see it that way and their stuff has them worried for me.
Yeah. It's real easy to get back in the old stories.
Then it's easy to be like, oh, did I make a mistake?
Yeah.
Like, should I have waited until I had more money in the bank? Should I have a part-time job while I'm doing this? Like, it's easy to go back to that, like, oh, should I have done this differently?
Yeah.
When
so what I hear there is like a context of like, you can make mistakes with money.
Yeah.
It's a place where mistakes could be made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Sorry for cutting off.
Yeah,
just
no, that's
reflecting
okay.
The context.
Yeah, I think that's what's there for me. In this conversation, just being really present to exploring this topic. I think the other thing I'm aware of, just in the sense of like both of us being coaches, is it's nice to have the space to explore this.
Yeah.
So I say that to our listeners who have never done any sort of coaching themselves. One of the gifts of coaching is you know, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, someone is holding that space for you to do this level of exploration.
Yeah.
And you don't know the gift of that until you're kind of like right in it. And you're like, oh, I've never looked at this deeply, uninterrupted, with someone asking just questions.
Yeah.
But like they get you to a place of like, like where you
Yes.
have those aha and those light
That's what's
bulbs
going
and
on.
like, yeah.
Yeah, great point. Cool. Yeah, yes. Yeah, and it kind of brings us back to that early point of it's like we don't get freedom from what seems to be real unless we become aware that it's happening and it's not actually real.
Right.
Or that it could be interpreted differently or whatever.
Yep.
Cool. So where we're at, in terms of the reframing is just getting present to, and what I hear from you is like, it's not always this, but this is kind of like my default money.
Yep. That's
story,
my default way
beliefs,
of being.
Relating to it. And so what we want to get present to is just all of, one way I look at this is it's like the water that I'm swimming in, right? Like fish.
Whatever your preference is.
A fish doesn't know. I'm just going to go singular with this.
Yeah.
A fish swims in water. I don't know what that experience is like. So this is a total projection. But because they're always swimming in water, they probably don't think I'm swimming in water.
Right.
It's just where they exist.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Right.
Except for maybe the fish that jump in and out. Maybe they have some idea of like, oh, this is the other place, and now I'm back in my home place.
You mean like dolphins?
Yeah, like dolphins. They probably get it. But we're talking like dumb fish
smart.
that never leave the water.
Well, and I would take it a step further. Do you think that goldfish in a fish tank know that they're in a fish tank compared to Nemo in the ocean?
I don't know. This is too hard to know what's in their brain.
I know, but it's just like it's
a
don't know.
Mystery. We don't know.
And they don't necessarily know.
They don't necessarily know either.
They don't know any different.
Exactly. And whether it's the fishbowl or the ocean, that's just what is. Probably for a fish. I don't know. It's a total projection.
Yeah.
But it's like they're swimming in water and they don't know it because that's all they know.
Yeah.
And so that's one way I look at the frames we're in that are running our lives. That's just how it is.
Totally.
We don't realize like it could be other ways.
Right.
That's one way to look at it. Another way I like to look at it is when you're wearing tinted sunglasses, after a while,
right, you don't
realize the tint's there anymore.
Yeah.
When you go skiing and you have like those big thick goggles, everything just starts to look normal, even though it's orange.
Right.
And then when you take them off, you're like, whoa, wow, color. But if you wear it long enough, you don't even realize.
Right.
So what we're looking at is like, what are the lenses you're wearing about money? You don't even know you're wearing them.
Yeah.
You do.
Right.
But when we're doing this kind of exploration, let's see if we can uncover lenses or water that you're swimming in that you didn't even realize because it's just how the world is.
Right. It just is how your world is.
So that's one place. So we can explore, like, what is the water? What is the lens? How are you seeing all of this? And we're not really looking at whether it's correct or incorrect.
Right.
Maybe some of that's accurate. I would look at most of this and be like, oh, it's all interpretation. You know, what money is or isn't is made up by humans.
Yep.
This is a thing, it seems like. Money is...
He's pounding on the couch.
Pounding on the couch.
For those of you that are only listening and not watching.
Our sound guy's gone. We don't know if this is working. This is a couch.
Yeah. That somebody decided to call a couch.
This could be made up and made of atoms, and we could interpret what all of this is. But there's certain topics where I think it's easier to see its interpretation.
Yeah.
But it doesn't usually occur that way to us. It's just real. Dude, you got to be careful not to make mistakes with your money or you'll be irresponsible.
Yep.
That can seem really real. So we're taking a look. Now the fun place to look is whether or not that's true. What is the impact?
Yeah.
So the way I would frame that first is look at it first is what are the things that then you do, strategies, what do you do to compensate for the possibility that you could make big mistakes with your money. Right.
Well,
And
yeah.
let me pause and just share what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm just going to pick some of Kristin's beliefs, and we'll just look at if that's the way it is, then what does that have you do or not do?
Yeah.
You know, what is the impact?
Yeah. Well, it used to be, I definitely used to be the person that just didn't look at my bank account.
Let me just not look.
Right.
Because that might be that mean that I'm irresponsible.
Yeah. Because then there's proof. There's evidence that I've been irresponsible.
Cool. So that's one strategy. Avoid.
Yes.
Don't even look at it.
Correct.
Okay. What else?
I think the other thing that I used to do was say, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, meaning I'm never going to make any headway. It's always going to be this way.
Resigned.
So yes. Not like it's okay, but just like this is the way it is. It's always going to be this way. And so go ahead and buy that $7 latte.
You're not getting ahead anyway.
You're not getting ahead anyway. And what's $7?
Gotcha. So there's a just not trying.
Yeah.
Not going to look. Not even really going to try because
what does it matter?
Cool.
It's never going to get any better.
What else?
I think I always used to also just like pretend like it wasn't a thing. So like if we were going out to dinner, we were going out to dinner. And like, I guess that's part of like it doesn't matter, but like kind of just like, well, I don't want my friends to know that maybe I shouldn't go to dinner
because of the irresponsible judgment.
I probably shouldn't be spending like $80 tonight.
But I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want them to judge that I'm not like good with money.
Right. Because then if I have to tell them like, well, I can't afford to go there, then they'll know that I'm irresponsible with my money.
Gotcha.
Like never thinking like, all of your friends make more money than you. Like, of course you can't keep up with them.
Got it.
Not like actually looking at but
a person who doesn't have enough money to go out to eat is not responsible.
That's right.
And that judgment is terrifying for you.
Yeah.
And so you can't reveal it.
Yeah.
Which means you end up spending money that maybe is not that great to spend.
Right.
For you.
And the assumption that that's what they would think. Not that like they all know you make less than them. It's not going to be like, they're not going to think anything other than like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
You make $40,000 a year less than we do or more or whatever,
Totally.
you know, like it would never,
there are other options, but living in that water.
Right. Clearly they're going to be like, oh,
Kristin, so
well, if you hadn't bought that pair of shoes, then you could afford to go out with your friends and have fun.
Yep. Cool.
Like, yeah.
Okay. So far we've got, I avoid even looking at where I'm at with money. I am resigned. I don't even try to get ahead or to save or that kind of thing. I'll not be honest about kind of what my needs
where
are.
I'm at.
I'm curious and we're not, we could do like a much broader exploration, like look at each of these beliefs and what are they actually driving in your behavior. But what I'm curious about is that tie of like whether or not they'll spend money on me or my coaching is related to my value. That like belief around that. How does that impact what happens in your business?
I would say the way it impacts is the way I discuss like my fees. It doesn't, so I don't necessarily look at money exactly this way.
I know this is from that place. That place.
I do that differently now, I think, but I definitely think it impacts the way I steer the ship on that conversation around
maybe there's
my
like a
fees.
tiptoeing or
right, like, well, this is what I charge for this, and the first month is this, and I ask that people make an X commitment, and
Yeah, gotcha.
At
So it doesn't
versus,
completely
like,
stop you, but it
this
adjusts
is-
how you're doing.
This is what I charge
Mm-hmm.
the first month. This is what I charge after that.
Yep.
I ask people to sign a, 3-month commitment,
Yep.
knowing we may work longer than that, but you can
Mm-hmm.
just like, here's the facts of working with me.
Yep.
Like, I think you're up to like big things and I would love to work with you. If you feel the same way, here are my rates and here's when I work with clients and how I work with clients, and like,
That's one way it could go.
right.
But it doesn't usually.
No, it's more like this is
Yeah, because there's still the story, the frame.
right.
Cool. So let me go meta for a second and just talk about what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you're awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks for sharing all this. And actually, that's kind of my point. As we're looking at our beliefs
Mm-hmm.
or truth, right? We call them beliefs, but most of the time they occur as just like, that's how it is.
Yes. Yeah.
As we're looking at those, as we're looking at then our strategies, and we're starting to gain awareness of like what's being believed and
Mhm.
how that's determining.
Everything.
Like we say, like context is definitive. How you are seeing the thing will define your action.
Mm-hmm.
You will only respond based on your interpretation. So as we're looking at it, a really helpful tip is there's nothing wrong with you
Yeah.
for believing any of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the ways we're conditioned. We grew up. We had
Yep.
particular like karmic circumstances when we grew up. And so what happens is there's a human being who is believing these things and acting accordingly.
Yep.
So we're looking at this not from, gosh, how could I be so stupid to believe that or act that way?
Mhm.
Actually, when we look at our beliefs about anything like money,
Yeah.
the strategies make sense.
Right.
If it were actually true that you were irresponsible and being irresponsible is like the worst thing a human being can be,
Mm-hmm.
then it makes sense that you wouldn't tell anybody
Right.
that you don't have enough money to go to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? The strategies that we adopt make sense.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with us for doing this.
Mhm.
So that's just a background meta. As
Yeah.
you're looking at these things, this is not like
Right.
what's wrong with me and how messed up I am.
Mhm.
And it's just, this is the lens I've been wearing.
Yeah.
And here's how it's
And
impacting
my
me.
actions make sense from that place.
In light of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what there is to look at is what becomes impossible from that way of seeing and acting.
Yeah.
So it's not making any of it wrong, incorrect.
Right.
It's just looking at what is that preventing me from being able to have in my
Mm-hmm.
life? What kinds of things do you see there?
Well, for a long time, I mean, the last year and a half, the last 2.5 years, I was in a 9-to-5 job that provided me the opportunity to get past a lot of that and actually practice like being responsible, putting money in the bank. Like I felt like I finally
Totally. I get
like
that for
had
your
a
life.
breather.
Outside of that, though, let's just...
But like before that,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, what was impossible is like the need for a savings account because there was never enough in the checking account to put anything in the savings account. What was
wait,
impossible
just
is
explore
like,
that. Let me pause you there.
Yeah.
And what was the impact not having a savings account?
I'm never
or
going to be able to
savings?
retire. I'm never going to be able to buy a new car. I'm never going to be able to buy a house. I'm never going to be able to retire. I'm going to have to work forever. Like I'm never going to get to go on the trips I want to take. I'm always going to be worried about whether or not I can pay rent. I'm never going to pay my student loans off. I'm like, never, 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 never. I'm never going to have enough. And I'm always going to be worried, I think is the impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think, so there's all kinds of long-term impact that feels moving to me. And also I imagine a day-by-day impact.
Oh yeah.
What was that? Or
Do
what
I-
would become impossible from a
Can I afford to buy lunch today? Because I don't have any food in the fridge. And I know I'm going to need to eat at work at some point. Like, do I have enough in my checking account that I can like go somewhere besides McDonald's and order a McChicken for $1? Like,
And that the impact of being in that questioning was what? Like on your
constant stress.
stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And worry.
What
And
becomes
then,
impossible is
like
peace of mind.
self beatings, like,
The
What-
irresponsible thing feels awful. And there's a way in which believing that the way it was set up, I was perpetually going to be proving it.
yeah.
that
Yeah.
I am irresponsible.
Right. Like, oh, if I hadn't gone out to dinner with the girls on Friday, then I'd have more money in my checking account and I wouldn't be worried about this. Look how
Yeah.
irresponsible you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing here about when we're getting present to the impact of the frame we're living in is it's like the more I'm believing a thing, the more I develop strategies to try to compensate for that. The more I'm in those strategies, the more real the belief seems.
Yeah.
The more I have to strategize. Like they actually
Look at the proof, all the proof. Look at
Yes.
all the proof.
Until that is the way it is.
Yep.
And that's fine if the things we really want are available to us. But looking at what's not possible from there
Yeah.
is where it's like, oh man, I'm interested in a different life, right? Then we can look at how else could I see this? So
Yeah.
get present to what's impossible, and then we can make a choice. Because it's not that we're bad or wrong about any of our beliefs. It's just, what is that limiting us from?
Yeah.
And if that's not the life I want,
How do I change that mindset?
how else could I see this? So it may be a lot, but to me, a big part of reframing is getting present to the whole
Cycle.
current dynamic. What seems to be true? How am I acting within that? How does that impact me? What does that make impossible? Really getting present to it.
Yeah.
And then our reframe could be around, how else would I see this? Where else could this be seen? What context might I declare? New frame might I declare that would make the impossible possible for me? What do you see there around money?
I think for me it's just the possibility that I can choose to think about it a different way. That I can make choices from the place that I want to be rather than the place that I was, and use that more as like a guiding thing. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me now to think about declarations from that place because it's been a while since I've been in that place.
Totally. So not from that place, just now. What are the money beliefs, contexts that you bring now that are empowering to have you create what you want?
Yeah, that like I'm resourceful and can find the answers. Like I can ask for help. Like I have people in my life that I can say like, hey, I've got extra money. Like what should I do with it? Like, and that like, A, I can ask for help. B, I can choose to be like responsible with my money. And asking for help is one way I can do that. Like I can, that I can just look back at the past, couple of years and be like, you saved a ton of money. Like in the past, that wasn't possible. But you declared when you like, I did pretty much like make a declaration when I started my 9-to-5 a couple of years ago. Was like, it's going to go differently.
Yeah.
And how can I set that up for myself?
Yeah.
And so I did.
Yeah.
And
so now you have the benefit. Let me reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
Now you have the benefit of having chosen a different way of being and seeing with money. You've started to gain evidence.
Yeah,
of the new frame.
Yeah.
So the challenge of this is there's some point at which we have no evidence for that belief because we have just been accumulating evidence of the old ways of seeing things. And so there's some point where we choose. It sounds to me like for you, that choice was in how you were seeing yourself
Yeah.
around money.
Yeah.
Not making it mean as much about you that your bank accounts, whatever.
Right.
Right. I don't know exactly what it was, but there
Yeah.
were some new ways of looking that then now coming from there, now you can look and like, oh, now I've done these things. And there's like evidence
Momentum.
for the new frame
Mm-hmm.
of how I am with money and how I can be with money and what's possible with money.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah. Super awesome.
Process of reframing. And then our human tendency is to gather evidence.
Right.
So what we want to gather evidence for is an empowering frame,
Yeah.
an empowering context.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I've got a couple things that I want to throw in, but let me just check in with you. Things that you feel to share, having kind of worked through a process like that?
I think just without sounding like too Susie Sunshine, it's like it is possible to make a declaration and create something new for yourself. That's not to say that you make the declaration and it is so. Like, it's not necessarily like that. There were along the path, especially at the beginning, there were moments where it was like, darn it, I have to transfer money from my savings into my checking. Like, oh,
Irresponsible.
yeah. Even if it wasn't. It's like, oh, yeah.
You're taking care of your needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all a story.
And so there's, of course, there's like along the path, but stay the course and you never know what's possible.
Yeah. Cool. All right. A few things I want to just share with listeners.
Mm-hmm.
One is, we've been using money as an example, and it's a great example because we all have some beliefs about money that go deep, that were ingrained from our family or our upbringing or our
society, whatever
things that happened in our life. And for most of us, those beliefs, the water we're swimming in with money, maybe impacting long-term what's possible for us, what near-term is possible for us. We might be doing the opposite. We might be so freaked out about money and security that we're not enjoying our life now.
Right.
All we're doing is saving, right?
Yeah.
This could go in any different direction.
Yes.
It's just to look at what am I believing, what strategies then come into play, and then what becomes impossible for me.
Yeah.
And then how else could I see this? So money's a cool one.
Yeah.
And we could talk more about once you've decided how else to see something, how do you
maintain,
really empower that way of seeing it? But I'll just throw out some other cool places people could look. Money's great. You could look at this anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere where like there's something you want that seems impossible. Peace of mind or a book you're writing.
Yeah.
Right. I could easily do this around what am I believing about the book? People are going to think this. People are going to think that. Writing a book's hard.
Yeah.
Anything I want to create, looking at my beliefs and the strategies flowing out from that.
And then the impact
Stepping
or the
out,
actions that you are taking or not taking.
How is it affecting me? And then like, how else could I see this book?
Yes.
Oh, it's a gift.
Yes.
It's a present to myself, to the world. It's a journey. It's an adventure. There's all kinds of other ways I could see this book that open up new possibilities for me. And if I can empower that way of seeing it. So projects, relationships. If you are single and you're listening to this, check your context of the opposite sex. What are you believing about men or women, or what are you believing about them? Because whatever you're believing is dictating everything you'll do in dating if you want a relationship.
Yeah.
Or it's dictating you not even going for it.
Right.
When deep in your heart, you might want it.
Yeah. And I would say not just your context around your partner, your future partner, but just relationship in general. So, you know, how you see men, how you see women, but like, what are your beliefs about relationships? Like how they go, how they should go, Like,
Totally. There's so much water we're swimming in there. Implicit assumptions about how people should be that just seems like the way it is.
Yeah.
And ways they should be that they're not when we haven't actually checked in on that.
Right.
Check in on if you're struggling with your family, how are you seeing your family? You've got beliefs about them that you haven't challenged probably since decades ago. You
If
know how
ever.
Uncle so-and-so is.
Yeah.
They're just that way.
Yeah.
And then you react to them a certain way, which makes it seem more real, and you can't get out of it. So this applies in your business,
Yes.
in your relationships, in your relationship with yourself. What are you believing about yourself?
Yep.
That's impacting all kinds of stuff you'll do or not do. What do you believe about your voice? I've heard so many people be like, I don't sing. I can't sing. Maybe, but you haven't sung since you were 7 because you've been swimming in that water.
Yeah.
So you actually have no idea.
Yep. What do you believe about your
Look
body?
everywhere. This is
what do you
an
believe
exercise
about?
you can do anywhere. What am I believing? What seems to be true about this? But especially in relationships, I just feel like there's somebody listening that needs to hear this. If you think men or women are scum, your strategy around dating will not result in you having a relationship. Because if they really were that,
Right.
why would you go on dates?
Right.
Why would you open your heart to somebody? Why would you trust or do any of the things that are necessary to have a deep relationship? So look at what you're believing and just be open to the
Yeah.
possibility that it's not so.
Right.
It's just made up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Totally.
that's my soapbox.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thanks. That's all I got for this. And I guess to speak to the possibility of the reframe.
Yes.
The gift of, maybe it's not actually that way. Maybe there are other ways I could see this. Having that experience of the reframe and starting to see like, this all might be different.
Yeah.
And the explosion of possibility that can come from that
Yeah.
is one of, for me, like the foundations of transformation.
Yeah. I think for me, the big thing in this whole process, and I would encourage listeners to think about, is, as you go through this exercise, if you choose to do that for yourself, is don't forget the step of looking at what becomes impossible from that way of being and those actions or inactions that are occurring because of that frame. Probably the most important step of this is what's impossible from that place, because when you get present to what's impossible, that's the most powerful place that you can create what could be and what is possible and what opportunities are there around that particular topic. How would you like it to be? And so as you go through this exercise, which I think we would encourage everyone to do, so just to recap, right? It's you look at what are your beliefs around a particular topic. And when you get 3 and you think that's enough, it's not. Keep going.
Keep going.
Then look at, from that place and those beliefs, what are the actions or inactions that are occurring?
Like, what are the strategies to compensate for that thing?
Right.
That belief.
Yeah. And then what is impossible? So those are kind of the 3 things. And then the 4th step would be, how would you like it to go? What are the possibilities now that you see what's impossible? And that's like,
and I'll add to that. I think in that is declaring a new way of seeing the thing.
yeah.
And I'll add to that even more. As you're looking at what do I actually want to create, and how would I need to see this so that I could create that? We'll often be tempted to go to the opposite. I am responsible.
Right.
Which is okay, but it's kind of keeping us in the same frame of a person can even be responsible or irresponsible.
Right.
So you might look outside the box for new ways of seeing. So it's not, women are unreliable. Now women are reliable.
Right.
It's just maybe people are surprises.
Right.
Or just something outside of the box. that's not keeping in the same context.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be for money. The declaration might be not that I can be responsible with money, but I have the money I need.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And you said something around, I'm resourceful, which occurs to me as different than responsible.
Yeah.
As an empowered context.
Yeah.
So that new belief from there, from resourceful,
Right.
I can ask friends, I can get help.
Yeah.
I can try out these different things, right?
Yeah.
It opens up a whole new range of possibility.
Right.
Yes. Try it out, folks. Challenge your beliefs.
Yeah.
See what's not possible and create new possibilities from changing them. That's it.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's everything.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. Have fun.
We'll see you guys next week.
Hey, guys. Thanks for listening. I'm Matt Maxwell. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or other social media, or learn about coaching with me at thisishearthstone.com. And please check out my book, How to Hold a Cockroach, now available through Amazon. You can connect with Kristin on Instagram at Robinson Kristin, that's Kristin, or find her upcoming workshops at thrivecoachingstudio.com. Please subscribe to us wherever you listen and leave a great review. We'd love to hear how it goes in the comments section wherever you listen, or leave us a note at cultivatingcouragepodcast.com.